Hello, concert band Woodwinds. I'm looking here at the third technical etude. That's the one at the bottom of the page. Remember, you only need to pick one etude per side, so if you're already doing a different technical etude, you obviously don't need to also prepare this one. Before we start, you should pause the video right now and make sure you have a pencil and your music at least, and probably your instrument as well in case you want to play along or try out some of the stuff that we're going to talk about. I'll give you a few tips before we start, because this is sort of a hard etude. First is to set your tempo based on the fastest notes in the piece. So in this case, it's those 64th notes in measure 3. The 64th notes are, all four of them will fit in the space of 1/16. So if you're going along and playing 16ths, you just sort of skip over all of them like that. It's sort of a written out ornament, you know, one of those little turns. So don't stress about it too much. It's an ornament, but don't go any faster than you can play that spot reasonably. Second thing is you got to make sure you're not playing too quietly. You've got this piano marking over here, but it is good for the whole thing, and it's really just a style marking. It's telling you not to be too loud and forceful with it. It's just you. You're not going to drown anybody out if you play too loud, so maybe bump that up to, you know, mezzo piano or something comfortable so that you can really get the style. As long as you're playing lightly and delicately, you'll be fine. This one doesn't really break up. This Etude doesn't really break up that nicely into phrases because they sort of run together. But I'll try to do it as we go on. So I'm going to play for you now the first line in a little bit. So that's sort of the first phrase, I guess, or the first phrase and maybe part of the next one. You'll notice I didn't go any faster than I could play the ornament, but it does go pretty fast, so be ready for it. Getting into the second phrase, you'll see that we there's no gap in the rhythm, right? It's just solid 16th notes for this whole line. So the phrases are going to run together. I'd probably draw the marking here, because then this measure repeats itself, but it's not really that important. You're just going to kind of keep going. During the second part, so let's go maybe up to here would be a good place. It's really important that you get the articulations right. So mostly it's slur 2, tongue 2, but then over here they're all slurred, and then it switches to slur 2, tongue 1, slur 2, and so on. So it's kind of awkward, especially this spot for me right here. Always feels awkward. But it does change the phrasing, so it's really important that you get it right. So I'll play this section for you now. Yeah, there's a reason this one is not the brass etude. And you'll notice I did miss that kind of awkward articulation right here. I should have left it circled. Now, if you play straight through the whole etude to this point, if you're an oboe player or a trumpet player, you're probably fine. If you're a flute player or bass sax or something that takes a lot more air, you're probably wondering, where am I going to breathe? So I'll switch colors so you can see better. But this spot, obviously, long note is always fair game for a breath. You'll probably also want to tank up here on that long note as well, sneak in a breath there. That should be enough for most instruments. Flutes might need to sneak one in somewhere else, and if you have to do that, I'd recommend picking a note in the middle somewhere and skipping it and just taking a breath instead. So maybe like this note right here, you could just leave the time in there and sneak a breath, but keep the tempo going, and that way you can make it all the way through. Okay, so the next section, here we have some kind of more musical action going on. That first thing was just kind of all continuous. But here we've got these accents, so those are important. Not to like really hammer like marching band style, but to just kind of put some weight on them. And if you look at those accented notes, they go up in a scale, right? We've got an A flat, B flat, A flat, B flat, C, D flat, then we skip up to F. So we've clearly got this kind of ascending line going up. So to make the most of that, we want to add a crescendo here. So that's really the first kind of obvious musical thing we're doing, and we're just phrasing with the kind of the shape of the musical line. So I'll go ahead and play for you from here to the end. You can listen for that. So that was not perfect, but I think you get the idea. You'll notice I added just a little bit of a retard at the end. That just kind of, this is not actually the end of the etude, and it just kind of rounds it out and makes it a little bit less abrupt. So feel free to do that. It also makes it a little easier on the technique. I think that's really all I have for you on this one. I'm not going to play it for you all the way through because it would just be bad. Like I said, a reason I didn't pick it for the brass etude. Don't worry too much about all the musical stuff. If you are crescendoing when the line goes up and then decrescendoing as it comes down, you'll be fine. Don't worry about any complicated phrasing. Just play stylistically. Play nice and light and delicate with good, obviously, finger technique. So, have fun preparing this one.